Today we're going to talk about all the things that you once learned in this business and for some reason you didn't implement them and so they just didn't become a habit. And I'm not necessarily going to let you off the hook, but we're going to identify why this happens and how you can avoid it going forward. It's really just kind of a part of human nature, and you need to fight against this human nature. And it started with, the invention of movable type. Everyone thinks that they have this brilliant discovery, and I created the flying machine, and that was Leonardo da Vinci. But what about the Vedas, the Vedic record from ancient India, and the flying machine, for goodness sakes? So is there anything new under the sun? Why is it that we discover certain things and then we just let them go, and we don't execute on them? And why is that such a pattern that sometimes we establish around our own business? And so this segment is all about that sales amnesia. What are the things that you've forgotten that you probably need to go back in and document and create a system and a process around so that you don't let go of it, that it does become a habit, and that you become more successful in your business? The first thing we need to get around in our heads on this topic is the fact that information is not action. Information is not action. And so the recording of information, if it's this video or if it's the written word or if it's some other kind of oral tradition passed down from century to century, from songwriting, from the bard, the who? The bard, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just information. If you don't internalize that information and if you don't act out on that information, then it doesn't get reinforced within the generation of your consideration. Now, when I say the generation, I'm not talking about your grandpa and your grandkids. And what I'm talking about is the reiteration of your thinking when it comes to managing your business. When you start thinking about a system and a process, and if you're learning something new around prospecting, there's kind of an arc of understanding. What happens is you get to a point where it's kind of new and kind of exciting and kind of challenging and maybe even kind of scary. And then you kind of get past that, and then you find a little bit of success. And then maybe you find a way to replicate that, right? And replicate, and then you find system improvement. You start making some changes and it gets better, right? So now you're an individual contributor and you've kind of developed this method and this system and this process around, say, prospecting or whatever it is. And you're all by yourself and you're in a business. So you could choose to write it down. So are you the first person that's ever written this type of idea down? Probably not. Maybe in your discovery process, it was 100% organic and you just discovered it from trial and error and doing it your own way. And for most sales professionals, this is actually how we do it. Some of us stumble across somebody else who's already done it or is doing it, and we can get a little bit of information from them. But just like Lost Library of Alexandria, for God's sakes, it's like there's so much information that's just gone because it's not executable, or someone's not really walking you through it or organizing it. Most importantly, the information is outside of you. The information's sitting in a library or in a database someplace. And if that information is outside of you, then it's not inside of you. This is why the lessons that you discover, the things that you discover on your own, have a tendency to make such a big impact in your world. It's also the thing that you end up writing about. You'll end up writing a book about it. You'll end up doing a video about it. Now, is there any really new information in this thing? The odds are probably no. Like no one has there is no brand new original idea. There's just not. It's new to you, and you discovered it, and it's that excitement that's going to make it grow and it's going to make it develop into something that's highly productive. Sometimes you can share it with someone else, and sometimes they'll be influenced by it. But I'm telling you right now, very small percentage, very, very small percentage. Few people are going to have the same kind of epiphany style impact through reading somebody else's material than they are through self-exploration, self-discovery. So what does this mean? This is a major, major, major obstacle in developing system and process around your business. When we start talking about crafting out a better system and a process and writing it down or creating a library, the first thing that we have to really do is be honest with ourselves and let go of our ego, or at least let go of some of our ego. And for most of us in sales, that's going to be really difficult because we all come from, or many of us come from, a place of pride about, I know that I can persuade somebody because I'm acting in their best interest. I believe in what I'm doing. They believe in me. They believe in what I'm doing. And there's a lot of I. Even if you're trying to help someone, it's still very egocentric. This is also what helps get you through the down times in this market. So I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. But when it comes to system and process and method, the very first thing that you need to do is let go of your ego. Don't take pride of authorship of a system and a process. The first thing you want to do is just write down the current state of what you're doing and take a look at it. Maybe it's listing presentation, maybe it's hiring and recruiting, maybe it's something. What's the first thing you do? What's the next thing you do? What's the next thing you do? You're going to find many times as you're trying to write this out, you don't really know what's next. Well, I do this or I do that. I do this or that. So if you wrote down a library of wisdom in the industry, and a lot of the books kind of had a chapter called this or that, you probably wouldn't be very successful at it. How do I know that your system and process is really dialed into mastery? There's two things. Number one, it's effective for you, and there's provable and demonstratable results. Number two, you can teach somebody else your system and process and get them at an success rate that's either similar to yours through a little bit of modification or adjusting. And that's that whole, Six Sigma, continuous improvement, agile thinking, right? So I mostly know what I'm doing, and I can teach somebody else what I'm doing. Now we're going to document. We're going to refine the process. Can this be transmitted out to 100 people? Can it be transmitted out to 1,000 people? Here's why that's really important in terms of you not having sales amnesia. Because as you're teaching something, you're actually reaffirming that you actually really know it, and you really, really know it. Because most of us don't want to stand up in front of a group of people and try to talk about a topic and really not have any understanding of it. It could be incredibly embarrassing. So, one, let go of ego. Number two, document your current state of whatever it is you're doing in that thing that you're trying to learn. Number three, do a simple analysis. Where do I have stumbling blocks in this list? Where can I write down am I missing a step? Are these steps out of sequence? Would it be better for me to do this first? This isn't complicated. You're just reordering steps on a list. Three, if someone else read the list, would they know what the heck you're talking about? Is your communication style simple and direct? Why? Because it has to be attractive to the masses. Why does your process and system and method have to be attractive to the masses? Really simple. Because you're only going to reach probably 5 or 6% of the people that you're trying to communicate with anyway. There's something called the greater waste theory. You're going to plant a lot of seeds, and not a lot of grass is going to grow, and you're going to plant a lot more seeds, and a few grass seeds will grow. And once in a while, you get a bunch of grass seeds growing. Okay, so you let go of your ego, and you put together a system and a process and a list, and it became a policy or a process and a procedure, and it was replicatable, and then someone else found success with it, and then you put a bow on it, and you put it on the shelf, and you forgot about it. You forgot about it. And this is the arc. This is the arc of the dark matter. You got mastery. You got a certain amount of satisfaction out of that. Other people found that it was wonderful. But there wasn't someone there just perpetuating it and peddling and peddling and peddling. And so this is why there are sales books on bookshelves today. And this is why there are self-help books on bookshelves today. Is because it's not just a matter of taking that road to mastery. It's about what is the rediscovery process. What is the rediscovery process? And so what happens is many times when we start reading another author or seeing someone else's video about a topic like listing presentation or whatever, we have to plow through all the baloney to get to that jewel that kind of sparks us. Oh yeah, oh I remember that, right? I remember that. It's like the kid who walks into a barn and there's a big pile of dung and he's going through it. There's a pony in here. There's got to be a pony in here somewhere. There's got to be a pony somewhere. Get rid of the poop. And so, but what is it about human nature that causes us to forget? And it's really simple. We're not doing positive reinforcement with that thing on a regular basis because our mind goes to something else. And particularly this is the case if you're a salesperson, because I would believe that if you're a salesperson, you're probably a dynamic communicator and probably personality more towards maybe more upbeat and maybe more open, right? Maybe more creative, a little bit more creative. And so all of these traits don't lend themselves to being operationally highly proficient, right? So the best realtors out there, I think, are highly creative people that are great communicators that come from an operations background. Those people actually run great real estate businesses, and the sky's the limit for them. Many of us struggle because, man, I'm really good at communicating. I'm really good at doing that thing and the transaction and yada, squirrel. And what do you mean I got to pay taxes, right? And so the other operational things sometimes drift away. The people who are very operationally oriented, would they have a tendency to maybe not be as strong in marketing? Maybe. Making some generalizations. Let me ask you, what are the things that you've learned in this business? What are the things that you've mastered in this business? What are the things that you've taught other people in this business that are currently sitting on a shelf collecting dust? I want you to go dust that thing off, and I want you to get on my calendar. If you have any questions about how to get re-inspired or remotivated, or how to break the amnesia of the things that you know that you should be doing and maybe are not doing, or the things that maybe you had a mastery of at some point, but maybe time has gone by and you just don't feel like you can get back on that horse, let me tell you what, nothing could be further from the truth. You've got a strong fundamental knowledge and understanding, and all you need is a little tiny spark to get you to that next place. Grab 15 minutes and get on my calendar. I would love to help you out and talk to you about your business and where you are at this time.